So for those of you who don't know me, I've been the chair of the Watertown Democratic Town Committee for a dozen years. And really one of the reasons that I, ran for that position was to make sure that we have a Democratic Party that is pushing progressive values. And what I found was, the party platform can express progressive values, but the real work gets done in the State House. So in order to continue that progression, it was important for me to run for state representative, especially because I don't want us to go backwards on any of these issues. We've had a great representative for 12 years in Representative Hecht, who has really moved the needle on progressive policies, and we need to move forward. We need to make sure that we're bending that arc towards justice, right? And especially now when we see, via the pandemic, via the Black Lives Matter movements and the murders that we've seen of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. It put a real spotlight on these inequities that have been in our system just for too long, and we really need an equitable response to the pandemic that prioritizes public health, provides economic relief, and really we have a moral obligation to make sure we don't let things go back to the way they were before the pandemic, because that just wasn't working for people, right? So I want to build a new normal that always has an eye towards justice, environmental justice, so that communities that were overloaded with sites for polluting industries and freight terminals, have high rates of asthma and worse COVID outcomes, we need to make sure that we're moving towards them. And we need to make sure that we have justice in our housing policy. We need a just education policy, so your educational outcomes aren't determined by your zip code. And we need to accomplish all these goals. We need a legislature that's committed to transparency. And transparency is essential to building public trust and governing effectively. I really want to be a part of the group of representatives that are committed to improving accountability at the State House, as I know Act en Masse is. Well, I think, banding together, right? You either hang together or hang separately, right? So I think that, making sure that the Progressive Coalition is holding itself together, is united on some of these important transparency issues. I think that things like putting out roll call votes in committee, posting those publicly is very important. A lot of things will die in committee and no one will really know unless they are, have specialized knowledge about who to ask or how to get that information, especially in the House. And most of the work is done, in these committees, in the House. And, you can look at the conference committees as well. The conference committees are very much operating in the dark. And when they come out at that point, it's really too late to make any changes. So making sure that when bills are reconciled, that's a transparent process. Making sure when the bills are put together in committee, that they're not sent to study. The bills can be sent to study. That's absolutely fair, but we should know who sent them to study. So we can't. So that the legislators can't claim that they are supporting a bill while simultaneously tabling it basically for the rest of the session. Yeah, well, I think what we've seen just in these past, this past week, how important it is to have these roll call votes on the amendments to the police the police bill and the housing amendments that we had to just yesterday. Was it yesterday? It seems like it was yesterday.
Monday, yeah.
Time is weird when we're all in quarantine, right? So so I think it's very important because you really do get to see who's really supporting the bills that and some people voting against amendments that are language from bills that they're co-sponsoring. So, getting these roll call votes is very important. I'll stand for a roll call vote, when requested by amendment sponsors and co-sponsors. I think that's important. I think it's important to get the roll call votes in committee. I think it's not always important. I think Denise Provost had a line in yesterday or the day before about how she saw the writing on the wall and it was just a waste of time to keep going. And that's after I think it was Mike Connolly's amendments failed by the same margins. So I don't think it's you don't want to waste people's time with tilting at windmills, but you still want to get people on the record. So as long as we're getting people on the record for important reforms, I think that's really the important thing for roll call votes in particular. And I'm hoping that a rules package can make that happen. The position that I am taking is that, given, should I be elected, the Representative Hecht, who I'm following, was, such a champion of transparency in the legislature that for me to that transparency is really table stakes for me, right? It's I have to live up to his reputation, because when I call his constituents, you know what, they care about this. He's known for this, for his stands, and I've called, I don't know, thousands of people who know him and have been served by him for 12 years, and they notice and they tell me. So if it were if there were a question between leadership and what people have been telling me for these past 4 months that I've been running, I have to go with my constituents. The district itself, I don't know if my bad behavior is would in terms of the legislature would in terms of the leadership would cause the district to suffer. I think that we have not noticed any suffering in the past 12 years, and I hope that will continue should I be lucky enough to be elected. But I anticipate that there will be pressure, but there will be pressure coming from the constituents as well, and they're the ones who are going to send me back or not. So I've really got to make sure that I'm listening to what people tell me about. I mean, I've made the argument before that, oh, well, people don't really care about transparency. They care about your bread and butter issues. But I have to tell you, when I'm calling people in this district, in West Cambridge, in North Cambridge, East Watertown, they know that the activists know what's going on, and it's one of the first or second questions I get from everybody is, how are you going to deal with that?